Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me on another worm update video. In the first of my regular totes, I am in the middle of the harvest. I am doing the horizontal migration, and most of this material is dried out really well. It's not super dry. You can see that there's spots of light brown and dark brown, but it's dried out really well, not holding too much moisture, and there's not a lot of worms in here either. So I'm going to take off like 2/3 of the material from this bin and then scoot the cardboard material over closer to the far edge, making a smaller place for the worms to have to migrate out of from the finished castings and giving them a larger area where I am going to feed up. So once I've created the space in there, I'm going to move all of this material back, and I usually find that right up against where the new material and the old material lies, the worms tend to hang out. But this time they were all hanging out in the shredded cardboard. Whatever was fed there, they really enjoyed it, and you can see the worms actually moving around in that newer bedding material. There was a ton of them right there. So I'm going to give them things that they like to eat, some things that have good amount of moisture to them. And next week I'll finish the harvesting of this bin. I'm not going to add any new material just yet. I'm going to wait until I get all of the castings out of here. But this bin is set up for the next week. I apologize for not showing the full update on the second regular tote. I am changing cameras, and I thought that this one was recording, but it keeps shutting off. With this bin that I'm doing the harvest, I'm using larger chunks of cardboard. I'm not tearing this up at all, and I'm really not messing with it much. The worms are migrating over. They're not migrating as fast, but I am going to use this as a trash can method and see how that works out. Beyond the issues I'm having with getting them to migrate, the worms seem happy and healthy. It's just encouraging the worms to move out of the finished material has been a little challenging since I've never done this method before. But I did feed them and give them their grit, and it was updated for the next week. Third and final bin that's going through a harvest at this time is my Vermi bag tote. Now, I hadn't had successes with the Vermi bag totes before doing a migration. I normally did a bait tray, and then my last harvest, the bait tray system seemed to fail me in that I lost so many worms out of the bag that I did the harvest on. So I am trying to do a migration inside of a Vermi bag tote, which is again another new thing for me to try. So far, the worms are not really trying to get out of the old material, even though the food is in the newer side. I am trying to also make sure that the material does not stay or get too dry, since the Vermi bag totes allow for a lot of evaporation of moisture. So I pushed the finished castings off of the edge of the bin so that they don't dry out too much, and I'm going to thoroughly saturate the new bedding to make sure it's not too dry and hope for the best next week. The second and last of my Vermi bag totes is the Vermi bag tote that's currently been receiving the product of the breeder bins. I've been putting about 2 or 3 rotations of new worms and cocoons into this bin. I am happy to report that it is looking like it's successful. It was a nice bunch of worms there, but when I go through the material, I see a lot more worms than I saw before. Unfortunately, since I was putting all the material from the breeder bins into here, this bin has gotten quite hefty. I think I'm going to wait till the end of the month to check and see what the level of material is and how fast it's composting to decide whether I need to sift out the worms and restart the bin completely. Lastly is the flow through system, the Vermi Bag Mini. And in this bin, it's all about keeping the edges from being crispy and making sure the level is high enough so that the worms don't try to travel downward and get smushed by the bag as it compacts the material. I'm doing well so far. It looks like the process of putting the wetter foods to the edge and putting some more food in the middle is keeping that upper level as an environment the worms really like. So what I'm going to do is add material this week to the bin. I'm going to add quite a bit of material, and each level that I'm adding, I'm going to add some water to. So I'm saturating this really, really well. And one great thing that I really love about the flow through systems is the amount of food that you can put into these bags. So far, I haven't had my bins leak any leachate from the bottom. So, and I've given this a lot of food before, a lot of wet foods, a lot of water from the frozen foods I've poured into here, and I've never had a problem with it soaking through the whole bag. So I'm going to give this a larger feeding to get the worms to come up to this level. Then I'm going to top this off with grit and some more cardboard. I don't want the level to get too low. And I will be harvesting this, I think, once I do all of my bins. And I know I say this a lot because I really don't like harvesting the flow through system bag that often. But I'm going to harvest this after my other 3 bins are finished with their harvest. But I will wet this level down as well, and since I did see some beetles, go back in and add a little more grit to this, and this bin is finished for the week. I do always appreciate you sticking with me to the end of these videos. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and as always, thank you so much for watching.